welcome back to episode 146 of Talk of Fame podcast with your host, Kylie Montigney, and I'm super excited to have on for today's episode because I'm super excited because we have Elias, is that right?
Elias.
Elias Harger, who's an
Yeah.
actor and played Max Fuller on Fuller House, which is my all-time favorite show. I can't get enough of that show. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on. I'm super excited to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. And so, first of all, before we kind of dive into your work and Fuller House, how did you get into acting in the first place?
So interesting story. So during the 2008 housing crisis, my parents kind of felt that our family was new and of course there's financial issues for a lot of people. My parents ended up getting enrolled in a Dave Ramsey financing class, and that's when they first learned about like compound interest and all that sort of stuff. And they have always told me that they sort of felt like they were past being able to really take advantage of that. They're like, well, if we can get our kids into like modeling and they can start putting aside a little bit of saving, they could be better off in the future and like have a better start in life. So my parents got myself and my sister, I think I was like 4.5, signed up with a modeling agency in Colorado, which is where I was born, just to start hopefully getting, a little saving put aside for our future. And that's how we discovered acting and commercials and that sort of stuff. So we started going out for that. And the first audition that I went out for, my sister actually booked, which like was an anomaly. It's usually not that easy to book stuff, but my sister, little toddler, booked the very first thing we went out for. And after that, of course, sibling rivalry, I just felt like I needed to get my own thing. So I really went all in with the acting. And of course, it was always an interest for me to perform. I really enjoyed that. So that's, I guess, how we springboarded off into everything that's come about.
That's pretty amazing. Was Fuller House your first role, or did you have any roles before that?
It wasn't my first role. It was my first like internationally known thing, but in Colorado, I had done commercials for stuff and a lot of student films. But mostly in Colorado, I actually was doing a lot of theater back then. So I had one production, the one that comes to mind most, is I played Tiny Tim in a local Colorado production of A Christmas Carol, and I I played Grumpy in the Shrek the Musical production that was going on out there. So yeah, I had more theater stuff going on out in California, or Colorado. But Fuller House was my first like production.
Were the small productions in Colorado, were they just any local projects, or they were kind of just for school kind of based projects? 'Cause I know some schools usually kind of have productions for kindergartners and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it was like local projects and student films. So, like art students or movie students who had like a project or something, I travel roles like that. Um, Back when I was in Colorado, I was not in the union yet, in the SAG union, because I hadn't worked enough hours. I hadn't made enough money as an actor, so I wasn't in the union yet. So I could try out for non-union jobs, which basically means jobs that aren't controlled by SAG. So there was a lot more student stuff and low budget films and like stuff of that caliber that I could try out for in Colorado. So that's mainly where my ballpark was.
And so, as we kind of dive into Fuller House, you played Max Fuller on
hmm
Fuller House, as most people know. And how did you land a role, Max? Is kind of I'm wondering about that part. How did you kind of land it?
Um, so in Colorado, even though we weren't like in the middle of Hollywood and everything, we could still try out for self-tape auditions, which is where, if you're not familiar, where you record yourself performing the audition and then send it to the production instead of doing it in front of the production. And so I submitted myself for that, for the role of Max. My mom and I didn't really know what the production was all about yet. And I think I got a call back that exact same day. And I must have gone through so many different tries on that callback. And eventually we turned in something we thought was like pretty good. And I didn't hear anything for like a month. And apparently, the production had gone through like two, three rounds of testing other kids for the role with the other actors they had already hired, and they just couldn't find anybody. And the casting directors apparently liked me, and they called me back. They were like, "Hey, why haven't we called this kid in for testing?" So a month later, my agent calls my mom and I while we were driving to a theater production practice, actually, and said the production for Fuller House wants to fly Elias out to California for testing. And so we went out to California. And I guess to get a little more detailed here, um, during the testing, I was testing with Sony, who played Ramona, and the original actor who was playing Jackson,
Mhm.
um, not Michael. He came in the first episode. Um, And there was a bunch of other kids there, and we were all going through and doing our testing and the audition. And the casting directors decided that they were going to have us spend like 5 minutes on the very first audition tape, like the first audition script that they gave us. They were going to have us like take 5 minutes to relearn that and then perform that. And keep in mind, it had been like a month since I had seen this thing. Fortunately, I've always been really good at memorizing, so I was able to pick that up really quickly and perform it like as if I had remembered it the entire time. And I think that's what really impressed them because that night they called me and offered me the role.
Oh, it's amazing. Like there was another Jackson before Michael came in. Was there
Yeah,
like another one?
so originally there was another kid who came in, and they had hired him. But when we got to actually filming, I think the showrunner had like realized he was more of a dramatic actor. He didn't really fit with the tone of the show as well. And so he ended up going with his second pick, which was Michael. And of course, he did an amazing job on the show.
Like before, like you got like you auditioned. Like, did you meet Michael or Sonny before like it's all started filming? I know kind of Michael came in like later in like episode one of the first season.
Yeah, I met Sony first because she was there for the testing. They had already hired her. So I met her during the audition process, but Michael I met on set.
Like, what was like your favorite kind of memory on set? Whether it's like the first season or like if or it was like when it ended. Like, do you have like a favorite memory like on set or just kind of like any memory with the cast like off camera or like this kind of private kind of conversation or anything?
That's a tough question. Um, I think uh, first season, I can't really think of anything. I mean, it was a really long time ago, but I think one of my favorite memories. So Jeff, the creator of the show, Jeff Franklin, he would throw parties for the cast at his house every once in a while. Whenever he got an excuse, he loved throwing parties and having people over and just hanging out. And I think one of my favorite memories is just everybody in the cast being over and hanging out. He no longer lives at the same house, but he had an amazing pool, and so he'd throw awesome pool parties, and it was just really great having everybody there and hanging out and talking offset, off work, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like I heard about like those like parties. I think like Jodie Sweden or like somebody like mentioned it. Like I forget who mentioned it, but I heard it before. I don't know if it was like Jodie or Andrea. And I know like I heard it somewhere, but
Hmm.
like was like the whole cast mostly there, or sometimes it was just kind of like you or Michael, Joe, Sonny, and the twins.
No, never just the kids. Usually the entire cast was invited. There was times when it was just adults, but most of the time everybody was invited. Now, usually there was a couple people who couldn't make it, of course, but yeah, he threw great parties. Jeff, really nice guy.
And on the show, you played Candace Cameron Bure's son,
Hmm.
which is amazing. I just met Candace a few weeks ago, and she's actually the sweetest person on there. I love her
I
so much. She's
know.
amazing. And like, what was it like working with her? Like, what was your experience?
It was great. Honestly, like just to be a little more general, everyone on the cast, like we got really lucky. Everyone on the cast was very nice and respectful and welcoming. And so we got really lucky because usually there's like someone on a set who's not so nice, but we really didn't have that. Everyone was really friendly. But working with Candace was great, honestly. I was really new to professional acting at the time, so there was a lot I needed to learn about being on a set and stuff. And Candace, and of course the other two girls as well, Jodie and Andrea, they all three of them, and what we called the legacy cast, which was the original adults on Full House.
Mhm.
They were all very helpful with, I guess, showing me the ropes and teaching me what to do on set. But yeah, no, very, very friendly people. And Candace was, of course, a joy to work with.
Yeah, Andrea, Jodie, and Candace are actually like the OGs of kind of like both shows. I feel because they're both like
Mm-hmm.
the main characters in both shows, but like with Full House, they kind of spotlight more about kind of bringing their personality together and like what life was
Mm-hmm.
like as they got older, having kids. Like it's just like I never expected a Full House runoff. Honestly, I was like, oh, there's a Full House runoff. Like, of course, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna watch this every single day, like I did with Full House. Like, just go be the best thing. But like, do you think there's gonna be another sequel to Full House? Do you think?
I mean, we're not sure anything could happen. The entire cast, of course, has joked about the fact that we're going to come back in like 30 years for a fullest house. But you never know. Of course, I would be more than happy to do another one, but we don't know. Haven't heard anything as of yet. I do have a question for you, real quick, though. How did you meet Candace?
Yeah, like I met her at 90s Con in Hartford, Connecticut a couple weeks ago. Like Andrea, Jody and Dave were all there, but I only met her, Andrea and Jody. Like I only met three, but I didn't meet Dave. But it was
Oh,
basically all in 90s Con. Like I kind of bought photo ops to meet them, which wasn't bad. I drive like I live about 3 hours from Connecticut. I'm in Pennsylvania right now, so like
mm,
it's not like a far drive. And once I found out that they were gonna be in Connecticut, and I was like, oh, I need to go this. Like it's just like it's never too many opportunities to kind of meet your favorite cast and the people you love since you
yeah.
were so young. And so like at last minute, like me and my dad decided to go down and met photo ops and stuff right there for a couple hours. But it was all 90s college and it was amazing. And I legit almost like passed out meeting Candace. It was so bad. Like I was freaking out, but it was very quick. Like it was quicker than expected because like she had a follow up. Like she legit
Yeah.
had to go to follow up. It was only like 2 minutes, which wasn't bad. But it's like I talked to her for like I gave her like 5 sentences or more, and then we just got pictured and left. It was very quick, but like it was amazing though. Like with the time I chat with her and stuff, like she was just the sweetest person.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you got to meet them. That's great. Yeah, no, all three of them, everyone in the cast, of course, but like the three girls, very nice ladies.
Like,
Um,
do you still talk to the cast, like to this day? Like, do you talk to any of them?
it's not like a common occurrence. We've all got stuff going on. We do have a group chat. It just hasn't been used in a while. But yeah, we have talked every once in a while when someone's got like something going on or an event or something. Yeah, we chat.
Yeah, like what was like kind of like your favorite part about filming, like for House? Like I know we kind of talked about this, covered this a little bit earlier, but like do you have a favorite scene or memory or just like anything besides kind of like offset and stuff?
I actually do have something that just came to mind. So just working on Fuller House, my favorite thing. I mean, as we discussed, I've always like had a passion for performing and entertainment. It's always been a passion of mine, and it's of course that makes the job a pleasure to do. So I always enjoyed the acting aspect of working on Fuller House, but of course, hanging out with the cast was a ton of fun. And whenever we had like a an episode where we were supposed to be somewhere, like for instance, the beginning of what season was it? Three, I think, where we went to Japan.
Oh, that one,
We
yeah, it was definitely season
actually got
three.
to go to Japan, so that was nice. Side note, the most humid place I've ever been, ever, but the people there are so friendly. Anyway, yeah, so working on Fuller House was a ton of fun with getting to hang out with everybody and getting to act and perform, which was my passion. But I think my favorite scene, at least my favorite scene that I'm thinking of right now is I think it's the second to last episode where everyone is in the diner.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
you're
I
familiar,
think it
good.
was like the second to last episode or the episode
Hmm.
before.
Yes. Um, so little tidbit of information. The little girl in that's supposed to be like a representation of Jodie, that's my sister.
Oh really?
Yes, and the lady sitting there with her is my mom, so they got to be on the show. But I think that's my favorite scene, not because of the actual, like, what turned out to be the scene, but because one of the twins said something so funny. I can't remember what it was. Um, I think it was something. I think one of the ladies had like forgotten one of their lines, and the twins were just one of the twins. I can't remember which one, Fox or Dash, but one of them was like, "You need to know your lines" or something like that, and everyone just broke out laughing, and it was a great moment, especially since we were all already emotional since it was the second to last episode.
Oh, that's actually hilarious. Like I actually seen that before. I forget which one said it, but that's actually one of my favorite moments is that like even if it was like a sad time, that one of them knows how to make a laugh no matter what.
Yeah.
And like,
Hmm.
by the way, I have to ask you, are you Team Steve or Team Matt? I have to ask you about that.
I am Team Steve. Yes.
Me too.
Hmm.
I don't know why you have always been Team Steve for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though I love Matt,
No, no,
Team
no.
Matt.
Love them both. Amazing. I mean, in real life and on the show, amazing guys. But it felt meant to be with
Mm,
Steve and DJ. Hmm.
And like I have to ask you too, like I think it was like in season two or season three, like for like this for like it was the first episode of a new season. I don't know if it was like season two or season three. It's like do you remember like when it was like the first day of summer and like the beginning of the episode, first episode of one of the seasons, you saying like the best song ever
Best
song
summer
or
ever.
something? Yeah, like did you actually
Yeah.
sing or was kind of like someone else
Yes.
singing?
No, that was me. Um, any singing on the show was actually the cast.
Oh, really? It's like no
Yes.
one singing for them.
No, I'm pretty sure. Um, yeah, we had a recording studio on Warner Brothers that we'd go to and record stuff. But no, that was actually us.
Mm. And
Why, are you
so
impressed or disappointed?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I didn't know
Okay,
that.
good.
I was like I had to ask you because like it's like I knew you guys sang, but I was like I know like some people think like oh like it's like someone sang for them, but it sounds exactly like their voice.
Yeah, no, it was actually us. They're lucky. If you remember the episode where Max goes diving at I think
Oh
a camp or something, and he goes home and he sings the Natalie Imbruglia song.
oh yeah.
Um, that was right as my voice was changing. So they had a good like 2 weeks before I couldn't sing that song anymore. So glad we got that done when we did.
Mm. And like last year, like we lost Bob Saget, which played like your grandfather
Yes.
on the show. Like, what was kind of like your favorite part about him? What like with working with him and stuff, or like while filming for House or behind the scenes? Like, what was like kind of like your favorite part about working with him?
I mean, of course, just getting to know the guy was amazing. Um, you'll hear this from a lot of people who knew him, but he was just such an authentically nice guy, which you might not always expect, given the fact that he's known for his really crass humor.
Mm,
But he was a really caring and friendly guy, and always very accepting and helpful, and just an amazing guy all around. And of course, as such, there's a ton of nice memories on set. But the one that I always think of is this one episode where we are at a fire station, and I can't remember what else happens in the episode. I just remember the fire station set. And Dave and Bob were there with me, and are they kept like telling me to crack jokes and like telling me things to say. They were like poking fun at the director and just joking around. And I think one of the amazing things about both Dave and Bob is as stand-up comics, they have this incredible ability to just in the moment come up with something funny to say,
yeah.
which is something I've always admired of them.
And like you started in your first animated feature called Felix and Hidden Treasure. Like what how was it kind of like different from filming in front of the camera?
Oh, completely different. For starters, I was doing the English dub for a French, an already made animation in French. So I'm not sure if it would be different if I was the original voice for the show, like if they would have already had all the animations done or not. But yeah, no, very different. We sat in a recording studio and it was a good like 2, 3 days of work instead of a week for only 30 minutes. It was like the entire thing done in a couple days. And I just sat there and read lines and took direction from stuff. Whereas like on set, there's a lot more to do because a lot of different camera angles, of course, and you have to put say the lines on top of performing physically. So yeah, very different, but a lot of fun on top, nonetheless.
Like what is like the film about? Like what is kind of like the meaning of the uh feature film, animated feature?
Well, the film follows the story of this boy Felix, who is going on a mission to find his dad, who's been missing. And he's friends with this old sailor guy, so conveniently there's a boat nearby, and he's going off to an island that his dad explored. And on this island, there's all sorts of stuff going on, like a mystery that they need to solve, and they're trying to find out what happened to this kid's dad, and what this mystery is that's going on, and what treasure might be there that the dad was going out to look for in the first place. So it's kind of like a family adventure story. Oh, and also he has a cat who acts like a dog, which is a fun thing to watch.
Ooh. That's actually hilarious. Like was like your character like the main role? Like were you like the son in
Hmm. Yep.
the feature?
Yes, yes. I played Felix.
And like the last thing I have for you is like, what is some advice for actors that kind of just starting out or just kind of want to start acting?
Um, I guess some of the best advice I could give is right now, it's very in, if you will, popular in Hollywood to be authentic and to cast authentically. So, something that has changed recently in acting is that people or casting directors really now want to see what you bring individually as yourself to the scene. They don't want to see you pretending to be someone else. They want to see how you are this character. And so, I honestly, the best advice I could probably give someone is just be yourself. Just be yourself and be natural. And one piece of advice that's been really helpful that I've gotten from acting coaches is if you're doing an audition, if you're performing sides, um, get something on tape and then do it again, but do it this time how you would do it naturally, how you would actually say these lines. And 9 times out of 10, you will get an astronomically better. That's not the right word. You will get a much better performance if you just play it like yourself.
Like how's that like worked for you and like acting acting tapes and stuff like that? Has that kind of worked for you?
Oh yes, um, it's. I mean, for instance, in Fuller House, a lot of us on the show are just playing ourselves to some extent. We are just finding what part of our personality matches with this character and just accentuating that over our characteristics that don't match up with it. So it's basically just finding your own unique way to be that character. The exception to that on the show would be Andrea, because she is actually an incredibly intelligent lady, and she's playing the dunce of the show,
Yeah.
which honestly I've found because the same thing can be said for Adam, who plays Jimmy. Um, it's that some of the most intelligent people on the cast were the ones playing the stupidest people on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah, that's so true.
But
Like
yeah,
Kim, like Andrea is like so much like Kimmy. Her voice and the way she acts is so much like Kimmy.
yes,
And I like want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I love chatting
thank
with you. It
you.
meant so much to have you on. Where can people like connect with you on social media if like they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so currently I have Instagram and Twitter. You can find me on Instagram at Elias Harger and same with Twitter at Elias Harger. And I also recently started streaming on Twitch. So if you want to go check that out, you can find me at twitch.tv/Elias underscore Harger. And I stream 5 p.m. on Sundays and 5 p.m. on Wednesdays, EDT. So if you want to come check that out anytime, any viewers, feel free. I would appreciate it.
Awesome. Like awesome. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time and I love chatting with you and I really appreciate all that you've done and your work and we'll definitely talk soon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you. Bye.